Morning, mate.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome back to another episode of Q Sport Hub where nobody watches it other than us.
Two old blokes talk a load of
Live,
rubbish about pool and
li-
snooker.
live from Ireland, aren't we? Well, I'm not. You are.
Yeah, just doing a bit of other business here, but yeah, I'm in sunny Cork, and well, I say sunny, it's bloody steep round here. My asthma is killing me. I went to cinema last night, and I was like walking up hills and stuff. It's killing me.
What were you watching?
What did I watch? Some movie about a flight, Mark Wahlberg film about a convict on a plane. But yeah, it was all right. It was all right. It was okay. Yeah, it was
It's
all right.
hardly. I think I'll give that one a miss. It's hardly a rave review.
No, it wasn't. No, because it wasn't. It wasn't like Shawshank Redemption or something amazing. No, it
Yeah,
was
well,
just all
not
right.
many are, to be fair.
No, indeed, it was all right.
I'm a bit disappointed you've still got a Scottish accent. You've been out there that long. I was expecting to come on speaking Irish.
So
I think
what's
Claire'll be disappointed when you get home. She's expecting Colin Farrell to return, I think.
I know. She's always disappointed when I get home, to be honest. Just got out for a minute.
Doesn't matter what accent.
No, it's like, it doesn't matter how long I've been away, it's just the same. Oh, God,
He's back.
guy. Yeah.
I thought you said it was 8 weeks, Noel.
That's why she'll have
Go
you
back.
because you drag me away from stuff. So what's happening over in the Big Island? What's happening?
Been watching a lot of snooker, mate, which I can't really complain about. It's been a busy few weeks. Obviously we had the Masters. What was it now? About 2 weeks ago. So Gary was playing in that. Unfortunately, went out in the first round. Struggled a bit at the start. He went 4-0 down to Sean Murphy, but then after the interval came out flying, knocking a couple of big breaks.
Nice.
Got back in at 4-3, and then it was a sort of a really tight 8th frame really, and it went to Sean, and after that it was a big task to get back in because Sean, as we've seen the rest of the comp, and even yesterday, he's just
flying. Eh?
Unbelievable. Yeah, just it's mad. I think I said this to me, my friend, when you I think it was the first frame Gary or second frame Gary sort of broke down and Sean came to the table, and you look and you think end of frame, and he was making this break, and I had to sort of stop myself and think this isn't straightforward. Like you sort of expect the play to clear, and he did, but you automatically start thinking that's easy, because he just makes it look so easy. But they weren't. He was just queuing that well. And then you look again yesterday. I mean, he won 5-0, didn't he, in the German last night? So
yeah.
And then the Championship League. Obviously, the Championship League Invitational. Joe was playing, and Joe was playing like an absolute dream last week. I mean, scoring like I've never seen him score before. I mean, he played the game against Judd Trump in the group before last, and he got beat 3-2, but there was 5 centuries. It was just Judd got in century, Joe got in century. It was just tit for tat, 5 centuries in 5 frames. Just incredible. And then he went into the next group because he lost in the semi-final of that sort of group playoff. And then the next day won all 6 games over the next 2 days, which was phenomenal because it was Lazowski, Trump, Gilbert, all sort of top players. And then unfortunately, he went out, had a cracking first round game against Maguire in the German. 2 centuries in that. Brilliant performance. And then he was obviously up against Judd yesterday afternoon and got beat 5-0, which was no shame in it whatsoever. I think the scoreline probably didn't reflect a few of the frames. Judd had the run of a ball, certainly, in the second, third frame. And he just yeah, I mean, it's an uphill task when you're up against it like that. Judd just at the minute, I suspect it'll be him or Murphy probably at the minute who will win the German, and they're both playing very,
Yeah,
very well.
yeah. No, I think you're right. Isn't it interesting? It's like obviously Sean's changed coach, and he's now with Mr. Ebden, and it's interesting because my understanding is like Ebden does a bit more. He hardly touches on the technical side of the game. So mental.
Yeah,
And Sean spoke. I listened to Sean's podcast last week there, and he spoke about it. And he was like, it was very amazing timing for us because obviously we just released one of the last videos about being badass, and that's basically what Ebden would be going over to him. It's just working on his demeanor, very kind of warrior like.
yeah,
Instead of going to the crowd and waving, and he's just like absolutely laser focused on the table, and just really chest beating, superhero capes on, that's a big part of what they worked on, and obviously clicked home massively with Sean, given how well he's playing. So it just shows, here we've got a player who's doing all right, but relatively just all right for him, and then he gets a change of coach and a change of mindset. Bang, he's right there, and
yeah.
it just shows you. And we're seeing this with the hub all the time, It's really, really exciting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've got to think it's all too common, I think, and something we speak about on the hub, and we've spoken about a lot in like these podcasts and stuff and YouTube videos, is that once you get to a certain level, whether it be pool, you can break dish, you can, you know your angles, you can, you can go and pop balls. Same with like Sean. Sean's got one of the best Q actions the game's ever seen. There's nothing technically really wrong with Sean, is there? But sometimes it can just be that mental aspect, whatever it is, and whatever the problem is, that sometimes it just needs somebody external, doesn't it, just to come in and just maybe give you that boost or that reassurance. And I think one thing as well, I mean, it's just come to me there, that's often the case, I think, with, especially at the elite level, is Q sports is such a lonely sport. Like a lot of individual sports, if you've not got a coach or somebody there, and somebody to bounce ideas around or to look at your game external, then it can be really quite a lonely place. And I mean, there's obviously been a lot of talk since, sorry, Ronnie and Mark Selby were talking about the mental health aspects around Q sports, and it's something that we've spoken about a lot as well. Is you buy yourself quite a lot, aren't you, in snooker, and I think having somebody there as a coach or support can often give you that huge boost. And you've just got somebody there. I mean, I was watching again the Q tips with Williams, Mark Williams and Lee, who obviously we had on here a couple of months ago. And he was saying that he sees things in Mark that obviously he doesn't see himself. From a technical standpoint, he thinks he's hitting something right, or he's doing something that he clearly isn't. And sometimes it takes leaders to look and think, well, actually, Mark, you're not actually doing what you think you're doing there. And I think that can be quite important, just to have somebody there who you trust, who whether it be from a mental or technical standpoint, every now and again, just to look at your game. And for amateur players and stuff as well, again, getting somebody in the club who's, a good player, just to have a look. And I mentioned, I think, on one of the episodes before, I did the same thing. I was frustrated and I was putting a lot of practice in and just didn't feel like I was getting better. And there was a player in the club who was a century break player, and he came over and had a look at the shots I was struggling with, and I was hitting loads of left-hand side. I thought I was hitting centre ball, but since I'd started playing the game, my eyesight obviously wasn't correct. So I'd been learning to play the game. I'd never had a coach. I was learning to play the game, self-taught, but playing it with those left-hand side. So, just every positional shot, everything I was playing was just entirely sort of based upon playing it with loads of left-hand side, but I thought I was hitting centre ball. And it was just getting somebody to have a look, because you always think like you're doing something right, or just continuously practicing that technical aspect is the right thing, and you're doing the right thing. You just need to practice it more, when in actual fact, you may be just doing something slightly wrong, whether it be from a mental standpoint, a technical standpoint, and getting, that those external eyes to have a look can make a very quick impact.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, it makes so much sense. It's just very. I can remember like working weirdly, right? It was quite an odd situation, but it worked fine. With Mark King, myself, and Chris Henry worked with him together, right? Which is quite odd, but it was fine because between me and Chris, we've always been good friends, and there's no ego there. There's no clash, and he was just like, look, I'll do the technical stuff. You do the mental stuff because you've been with Mark a long time, and that'd be great. And it worked fine. And he just gave me like a couple of things. He says, if I'm not here, this is what to look for. And I'm like, oh no, Dave, start telling me technical stuff, because I can't do that, right? I was like panicking. It's like, no, it's fine. And basically, it was all about, like with Mark, it was about how much the top of his head moved. So as he came through, he rose up, right? Now, Mark always did that in every shot, but it was him showing me and how to do it. So, like he says, you pick a spot on the wall above his head. So you stand 90 degrees to him, pick a spot on the wall above his head, and then you just gauge how much he's moved towards that spot. So we're back.
I'm there, mate. Yeah, just froze a bit. So, yeah, you were saying picking a spot on the wall.
Yeah. And sort of what move was good for Mark. That was absolutely fine. But obviously, like a lot of, like a good bit more movement would generally mean, especially if it's a long pot, he'd miss that shot. Yeah. And the how well that correlated was amazing. But basically the fix was an emotional one, and we were working on Mark's emotions, because I'm getting through to Mark. Whenever you move a lot, that's the effect. And then the cause is one of anxiety. You're afraid you're going to miss this. And that comes out of your body as a big movement upwards, which technically obviously changes the path of the ball, etc. So it was a bit kind of cause and effect. But yeah, it was, I think it's fascinating, like for the technical coaches, like kind of like seeing so much. I'm more kind of like looking for body language and stuff. That was the first time I'd ever looked at something technical. But I have learned to stay far away from that. You don't be learning that off me, do you, mate? No.
But I think what you're saying there, you see that in a few players, and that was something that, I mean, I will still do. I haven't played for a while now, but I would always set up the camera to look, and that was something that I would always do, especially if I was playing something with a lot of pace or playing something with bottom, and when I was going through the cue would then end up, if I was putting pace on, lifting the head up and lifting body up, and you see that with a few players, and I think it must be when obviously you get a bit tension and stuff, and then it's certainly when it starts getting in your head. But I mean, I know what you're saying there. It was something that was commented on about Murphy is must be something Ebden said is he's staying down on shots a little bit longer, just a second or two noticeably after he plays a shot. So that must be something that they've worked on as well from a technical standpoint, something they must have spotted there, because he did that in the Masters quite a lot, where he was making that conscious effort to stay down on the shot and keep his head down for a second or two.
Yeah, it's just it's amazing what he's doing. I've always been a big fan of what Ebden does. It's like I, I really respect that because obviously, like Chris said, he can teach both sides of the game, but it's like Chris is recognised both Chris and Ebden. It's like they're both recognising that they know the important bit, and it's quite telling, isn't it? You've got coaches that can do both, but like in conversations with me, it's like they understand that the only bit that matters is mentally. The only bit that matters. And really, it's all about really, well, especially for the pros, it's like working on the technical bit. The players, and we know a couple of players like this, don't we, mate? Who are obsessed with the technical aspect of the game, right? And what you end up doing is they do some technical work because it makes them feel better. And then, so you're using the technical stuff to do the mental side of the game because obviously if you feel better, you're going to play better. And it's kind of really that simple. So you're having to do it kind of backwards, right? We want to go over there, but we're going to take 3 steps that way first. Which is just completely bizarre. But like the players that are obsessed with the technical aspect of the game, often what happens. I'll ask them about on technical movement. What movements do you really like? Making sure that you've done, and it's like great, and start working on that, making sure you've done that move. Because I really like that. I love done that. And it's great. But really, like all we're after is it's a reason to feel good. It's a reason to feel good because it's like it's impossible for them to feel good unless they feel they're technically correct. And they've just painted themselves into this massive corner, which we've got to kind of get them out of.
It's a vicious cycle, isn't it? Because I think the more you focus on, say, cue action, or even with golf. I used to do a lot with golf, and golfers are renowned for constantly changing the swing and everything else, and thinking, well, if I'm not hitting the ball, it's got to be a technical thing. So then they start changing things about with the swing, and then what happens is inevitably it starts to become unconscious instead of subconscious, and start putting tension in, and then playing worse, and then before you know it, weeks down the line, they can't even remember what the cue action was like or swing was like, and you're thinking, well, that can't be good, especially at the top level. I mean, if we're talking about amateurs, there will be likely in there some technical aspects that players need to work on. There's no doubt about that. But when you start getting up to elite players, we're talking about Murphy and Ebden. I highly doubt that Murphy's going to have anything significantly wrong with his game. And something like that, like staying down on the shot, might be something that Ebden spotted, but isn't really necessarily a massive technical thing. That could be just a bad habit picked up, when he's been practicing moving around the table quickly, and you start getting in that habit of you play the shot, you've put it, and you're lifting up quickly to move on to the next because it's practice, and you maybe carry that into your match player, and he's maybe just said, actually, just let's make a bit of an effort just to stay down on that shot because you're moving a bit and it's putting a bit of side on you, hitting across it, and it's not necessarily a technical problem that he doesn't know about. It's just more the fact that it's just something, obviously, he's neglected a bit or hasn't spotted himself, and he's just a little bit of a bad habit creeping in there. That's just like, let's put a stop to that, not let's make drastic changes. But it all becomes more of a mental side, and I think that's the thing with a lot of top players across pool snooker, is that mental side. It's remaining focused in practice, in match play, when your back's against the wall, and then going into sort of what our topic is we picked for today is playing the right shots under pressure, isn't it? And
yeah.
That's one of the things that obviously we want to talk about today is looking at how we play the right shots under pressure. And this is at all levels of the game, isn't it? You know, whether that be your opponent's fluked and put you in a snooker, which we've all been there, and something I think in particular pros struggle with it, but I think, you know, pros handle it a bit better. They play more, they experience it more. There's more on the line. They're able a lot of the time to step back, to calm themselves and play the correct shot. But amateurs, we see it all the time in clubs where people spit the dummies out, or they're in a huff and they'll then just lash the balls or play a rash shot, and then that affects them and they're sat down and they're thinking, he fluked that, he shouldn't have won that frame, you know, he shouldn't have done that. And it starts then getting in your mind. You come to the table and it affects your whole game, and then you sat there after telling your mate at the bar that Davies won that match, he fluked that shot, and you can't really let it go and learn to then play like the correct shot, can you? And I think that's one aspect of it. And the other is on the flip side as well, when you're actually playing very well and you're very confident. And I mentioned to you, it was something I made a note of. I was watching the Masters and it was Judd Trump was playing. Can't remember who he was playing, but I remember it was Sean Murphy and Steve Davis who were commentating. And Steve Davis made a reference saying that now sort of players more than ever are reluctant to walk away from the table. You know, they'll try maybe at that back double or reverse double, or they'll try and take that long pot on, and the player with more risk. And it just got me thinking that even from a personal perspective, and I know it's something that is, we talk about lack of confidence or fluke, but it's also when you become overly confident, is then on a pool table or a snooker table, how do you then recognize that actually I shouldn't be playing this shot? Yes, I'm confident, but there's a lot of risk attached to this shot. And I've been there, in particular on a pool table when you're playing really good players, and I can pop balls off a lampshade on a pool table, but then you come up against top players, and you maybe take that one on that's a little bit risky, thinking, well, if I pot that, I can pot that all day long, and you miss, and it's literally end of frame because you don't come back to the table. So that's the fine line. It's then how do you rein that confidence in, and also as well, and think, how do I play the right shot? How do we play the right shot? So when we're angry and we're maybe been put in a snooker, or we've played a bad shot, we've run out of position, or we're lacking confidence. But then similarly, how do we learn to play the right shot and maybe walk away from the table, play safe, recognize it's end of break? And now I'm going to hand that over to you, because you're the mindset on all this thing. I'm just some cue sport peasant who lingers around the game like a bad smell.
It's a fascinating one, because and God, your game might even change off the back of this, because I don't know if we've talked about this in depth, but it's tricky, isn't it? Like how do we as human beings make decisions, right? We make decisions off of data, right? And the data is past experiences that we've had, right? But obviously the data for any given situation is infinite, because it's not just you're learning the data. I mean, obviously you could ask your mate the other side, stop the game, get somebody else coming. Well, what would you do here, right? And there's Jimmy behind the bar. Let's get him over. Like, what would you do here? Oh, there's so he's a pro player. Right, let's get him here. What would you? And you could talk about it for more as to what to do, what the risk reward was, everything else. Right now, obviously, if you start going into it in so much detail in the midst of a match, not sure it's going to pan out too well. Taking 5, 10, 15 minutes to decide what shot to take. I mean, obviously, it's just not going to pan out at all, because really, like as I say, it's just understanding the data for any decision is infinite. So how do you go through all the infinite possibilities? You can't. So really, at the end of the day, a decision needs to get made, and it's doing it from the right emotional standpoint. Obviously, God, as we learn from when we were kids, right? It's like, if we make decisions when we're upset, we're going to make bad decisions, right? And that's fine. what it's about. So if a player fundamentally has to put themselves in a situation in order to make a good decision in the first place. So that's like box number one. So obviously, like if a player is well versed in Q Sport Hub, then hopefully they're in a great space during the course of the game. They're relaxed, but there's intensity, there's drive, there's determination, there's being badasses there, right? And that's us at our best. Being able to do that. Now, in terms of a classic thing, it's like say it's a snooker table, say you're taking on a long red or not. Obviously, there's technical aspects of like, can I get onto a colour off the back of this long red? No, you can't. So therefore, there's no point taking on this long red. And obviously that's all the technical stuff. But you know that. I mean, as a week, even put your standard and above, like you know all that. So it's really about getting yourself first and foremost in a good position to make a good decision. And after that, it's really, really simple. So you have to simplify, because if you don't simplify it, like I say, the data for a decision is infinite. So that's infinite's pretty complicated, right? I mean, that's madness, right? I mean, that's unbelievable. So we need to make it super simple, right? And what is this? It's exactly the same reason when you go out for a meal. So I went out for a meal last night. I went to this Irish pub, right? And I had a look at the menu. And this is generally what I do. As soon as the menu's opened, I've made a decision within three seconds. The second I just start reading down the menu, as soon as I get something that I really like, I'm not reading anymore. That's right. So I had carbonara and chips or something. So, which was very nice. But it's like, why did I take that instead of the burger? It's like, because I took carbonara because that's what I wanted. That's what felt good, right? It's all about feelings, right? I feel that I'd love to put carbonara more than I would the burger. So why am I going to choose the burger? I'd be mad. The decision is carbonara because that's the one I'm going to really like, right? You never pick the second best thing in the menu. We always pick the thing we want in the menu the most. And this is exactly the same. It's no different. Now, that decision I made could have went badly wrong, because carbonara could have been absolutely awful. Could have mushrooms in it or whatever else, and it's like, it could have been a disaster. But I made the decision, and I've got to stand by that, and it's like, and then take whatever the consequences are, complete acceptance. So it's the same, like in any moment, it's the same shot, right? It's exactly the same process. Complete commitment to this point. This is what we're doing. And I'm totally buried in this shot. And then the second, the cue ball's left to tip, it's a total acceptance of whatever happens. So it's like, if you decide to go for that long red and it felt like the right thing in that moment, great, you did the right thing. Even if it goes wrong, you did the right thing. Because, like, that's the other part of this, is like, players have problems making decisions. And the reason they have that is because they're afraid of what's going to happen next, what the consequence of that decision is, right? What if you were free of consequences? What if you played the game where it's like, because none of us know whether something's a good thing or a bad thing, right? I mean, shortly, I'm going to be out in the street again, and it's like somebody could drop their bags in front of me, right? I'm just about getting to a zebra crossing, and somebody drops their bags in front of me, and I'm like, oh, that's a bit inconvenient. But anyway, so I'm initially seeing that's a bad thing because I'm helping them lift all this stuff up, right? But that situation put me in a different place in time, which might have stopped me getting run over on the zebra crossing, for example. Yeah, we never know if something's a good thing or a bad thing, because you don't because everything changes everything else. So in terms of like, because then like when you view things like that, you're completely accepting whatever the outcome is. Then we can play with freedom of concern, and if you're free of concern, then you're going to be in a good space. If you're in a good space, you're going to make really good decisions, even when it goes wrong. And like wrong is like, what is wrong? It's like you missed the shot. Like, so what? It's like that might be the best thing that happens in that game is you miss that shot, because the other player is up and it's like, oh, golden opportunity, everything's there, right? They fail to do so, which destroys them mentally, and you come up and clear up. That's just one of 1,000 permutations that might happen. Or the consequence of you missing or deciding to go for a shot or not, and the game going the wrong way for you, and you get a loss. The learning of that will make you a better player. So there's no bad scenario. Everything's there to help you. That's like my views on stuff, you know. It's like everything's there to help you, you know. So it's it's absolutely fine. You know, I might have spilt a gallon of milk at home, but it's like, isn't that great? Because it stops me then having an angel delight and getting even fatter than I am already, you know. So there's like an upside to that, isn't there? You know.
Do they still make Angel Delight?
Yeah. Oh my God, it's so good. It's so good.
I don't think I've had one of them since I was 7.
Oh, chocolate angel delight with a sliced banana on the top. Oh, God, I'll change your life. Really, it's amazing. So see how like great the world is, and see how great life is, and life on the table is when we have this attitude of being completely free of concern and endlessly accepting everything. Because now, like the tension and making decisions, the rug's pulled out from underneath it. You've chopped the legs off this problem because nothing matters. It just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter what the outcome of it is. You just like, if it feels like in that moment you want to play safe, that feels like the best thing. Like I was saying about the meal, it's like carbonara felt like the best thing. We're going to choose the second best thing. And if you feel like you want to play safe, then play safe. Great. If you feel like you want to go for it, go for it. Brilliant. But just completely accept whatever happens.
Yeah. I think that's something that I always sort of struggled with a little bit when I was sort of playing sport in general, where I would always feel, you know, sort of aggrieved with stuff, you know, if somebody fluked a snooker or whether it was something,
nonsense.
I would always feel aggrieved, and it would always bother us, and it would always then sort of linger, and you would lose a bit of temper and patience, and again, I don't know if it's just getting older and stuff like that. Like, don't get me wrong, like, you know, things like that do still bother me, but now it's exactly what you've just said. I just think, like, is it really that important? Should it really bother me that much?
It's just
fundamentally, I always think if somebody fluked a snooker against me and you're playing at, you know, at a level where you know your opponent's good enough, you need to just stand back, calm down, take a few deep breaths if you need to, take all the time in the world and play the correct shot. Look at the angles and play it like you would if he'd put you in an intentional snooker and you had to get out of it. You know, see it as a challenge, see it as whatever you want, but it's just part of the game. And then you're coming away from the table. I mean, don't get me wrong, you always come away feeling a little bit, at any level of any game, a little bit disappointed if you get beat. But I always just come away now from anything and just think, is it the end of the world? Do you know what I mean? It's a game, and I'll say this to any, you know, players that I work with or whatever else, if they've had a bad game or bad performance, so what? You know, it's done. No amount of worrying or beating yourself up or whatever else is going to change what's happened. It's done. It's gone, and it's a game. It's a game. You know, it's you know, whatever it is, you know, whether you've lost prize money, whether you could have got to the next round, quarterfinal, semi-final, won it, whatever else, it really doesn't matter. You've lost it. I mean, a great example, and it must have hurt him, was Mark Williams when they were out in Saudi playing Judd, and you know he pretty much had the game, missed that ball, lost a significant amount of money, and he was, you know, joking about it, you know, later that day and the next day. Now that will have hurt 100%, but I'm guessing, and this is a guess because I don't know and I've never asked him, that he probably adopts that mindset of it's done. You know, like I can beat myself up, I can sit, I can do whatever I want, but fundamentally I got beat. The money's gone. That's not coming. That's not coming back. You know, it's no amount of me beating like myself up or whinging out certain shots or looking back and being negative. None of that is going to change the result, and none of it is really going to make you better moving forward. Because it eats you alive, and I think it's trying to just play the game and trying to just enjoy it. And with people fluking snookers, I mean, that's a really common one you see at all levels. You know, when your opponent flukes a snooker, and you even see it at the top level where sometimes and they lash it and they're just a hit and hope and they get frustrated and everything's going against them, is really trying to just take that step back, let your emotions settle, isn't it, and just play the right shot or what you feel is the right shot.
Yeah, I mean, it's just such an honour, you know, folk in good run and being upset with that. I mean, it's like, it's only because they pay attention to when it's working against them and they pay no attention to when it's working for them. So therefore they think there's a much more one than the other. And it's just nonsense. And again, just a bullshit story. You know, it's just a bullshit story that they've made up. There's no, there's no proof that it's, it's just nonsense. You know, total nonsense. But it's just like it's just so many of the things that we talk about. You know, maybe we should do one on the yips. Maybe we'll do a video with this with yips. Everything seems to the same problem. It's just like, you know, the players' processes are fundamentally flawed because, results and outcomes and stuff, you know, and it's like the second you start doing that, we end up with dozens of little problems, and one of them is decision making. You know, another one's yips, another one's frustration, another one's anger, but they all stem from the same thing. Really, so exactly the same thing. It's something like, you know, moving on a little bit. It's like I messaged you yesterday and said that I don't know. It's weird how it comes to it. So it's like I've let myself go and well, not just body wise. I mean, obviously I've done that because I'm fat as.
I'm glad you recognised it, mate, because it saved me on that whole conversation. It saved me having to pick the focus. No, listen, mate. Like, been thinking about this a while. I've actually lost a bit of sleep over it, but I've been thinking it. Claire's been thinking it. We've got to get out of a bit of a chin wag, and we just think you've really let yourself go. So when you text, it was a relief more than anything else, because I just thought, fuck for that. He's recognised. He's let himself go. He's got to sort himself out.
Oh, I know, but I just don't care. I just don't care. I much prefer the Angel point to take it off your food. You know, that's for me, man. But it's more just like obviously on a mindset side of things. So like, you know, there's times where I'm really good and I work on myself every day, and I just hadn't for a month or so. I just suddenly realised I was like, you know, like I've made that, and I did that, you know, by, as we've discussed before, like in the private page for Q-Sport members, you know, so I just went on there and I listened to some content, not mine, like other people's, and it was great. It was great, you know. It's just like walking along yesterday, feeling a little better with that. But no, it was really good, and certainly, like we're saying this, it doesn't just happen to me. Obviously, like, you know, it happens to members of the hub. And I had a member who's been a member since the start. So he's been a member for a year now. And he messaged me the other day, and he said that basically he's like, he says I've been quite lax with the hub for the last couple of months, 2-3 months. He says I've hardly been on it. So he says he's got his own private practice room. He's a pool player, like a very, very high amateur pool player. So he says I went and I had 3 or 4 hours to myself, so I did 4 hours of practice. And in the background, I was playing the hub, like one session after another. Like, start playing the hub, right? And obviously, there'll be bits of it that really strike home for players. It's always the case, like whether you're 1-to-1, there'll be a bit of content that really hits home for him. And for him, it was about being badass. So he spent 3 or 4 hours, and now he's working on himself, on his mindset and stuff, right? Next day he goes into a comp, and it was like a memorial event for a player that had passed, and it was something that's happened for a long time now. Right, you know, it's quite an old comp, and it's got quite a reputation. It's really one everybody wants to add to their CV, you know. So he says, you know, the pros there, like big field, and he says all the time. He says, I was going through my matches, winning my matches, and various, you know, into tiebreakers and stuff. And all the time, I just sat there and I'm like, just being badass, be fearless. I'm not afraid of it, you know. Just gonna, and it gets to the decider, and again, it's just like, let's just be badass. We get the chest out, cape on the back, underpants on the outside. I am absolutely invincible here. And if I lose, fine. I'm absolutely okay with that. You know, and he just went through this process all day, gets in the evening. I mean, I think he had to win something like 12 matches or something. It was crazy. But anyway, he took the trophy home, won the final. You know,
Fantastic.
and he played a couple of pros in the semi and the final. But yeah, I mean, it's just absolutely fabulous. It just shows like, it's brilliant. And as it was like the step forward mindset wise I made yesterday. But really, why are you not doing that every day? You should just be doing that. You should just be working on yourself every day. So I'd say it like Q-Sport members. It's not that you should be listening to Hub every day. Not necessarily so, no. But you should be working on yourself every day as much as possible. But if you find you catch yourself not doing that like I did, the last thing I'm doing is giving myself a hard time about it. Not at all. I'm like, I'm okay with that. You know, like I'm human. I've been busy with other things, and it just kind of slipped my mind. You know.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I always, and I've said this to you before, something that I've always like carry with me now and have done for the last sort of few years is what you would always say to me, because I would always do that, and I would ring you, and the first thing you would always say is, "It's fine. You're doing the best that James Hare can do today," and that's something that even now I always tell myself. You know, when things have been tough or whatever else, and instead of beating myself up, which isn't really doing anything positive, and just making yourself feel a million times worse than what you're already feeling, is to just actually not be hard on yourself and thinking, I am doing the best I can do today. Because for a lot of people, there's lots of different things going on. You know, for example, you know, the last few days for me, it's just been an absolute whirlwind. You know, it was my little boy's birthday. He had his little friend sleeping over on Saturday. The house was just manic. And then in amongst all this, my little girl decided that she was going to be sick all over the bed, and I'm trying to wash the bed.
Bless her.
Then she was ill, so then she was, I mean, to be fair, it was a little bit worrying at the end because for 3 days she was sick and she couldn't keep anything down. But then that lingered into obviously to Monday and Tuesday. She was off school, so you know, then it affected how much work that I could do, because I was obviously holding sick buckets and, you know, looking after her, which is obviously the main priority. And there would have been a time in the past where that would have really made me feel quite anxious and feel I would probably start getting a bit impatient because I'll be stressing about work or whatever else. And if people were getting in touch with me about work, it was just like, listen, like, I'll do it, but this is the situation, and it just didn't bother me. Then beyond that, because I knew what my priority was, and I knew that I was doing the best I could do that day. And if people were going to take grievance with that, then they wouldn't be people I would want to work with in the first place. And everything was fine. And
Yeah.
I'm sat here today and everything's fine. But you can, sort of buy into that, can't you? And you start getting, a bit frustrated and thinking the world's against you and things are tough and everything's a million miles an hour. When in actual fact, it's, you can only do what you can do. And that's all you can. And that's what I've been doing the last few days. I've only been able to do what I can do. And looking at what the priorities are, anything aside from that will get done when they get done. And the world's going to keep spinning, isn't it? Whether I'm doing those little things or not, the world's keep on spinning. People's getting on with their lives. It isn't worth me getting that bogged down by it, because the only person fundamentally who then gets bothered by that is me. Nobody else cares, do they really?
Oh, I don't care about you.
Oh, I know you don't care, mate. I mean, you've made that abundantly clear, so that's why.
That's good. That's good.
I was going to add that on when you said that you're doing the best that James Hare can do, and you're also a C word, was what you normally an English C word.
You're not really top English. I mean, Geordie, sir. Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody would understand me, man.
Well, it's we're not a perfect hurry, even me. I know that'll be shocking news to you, But it is like, I think, like when it's like when a difficulty comes up, then we see where we're at, and like you dealing with that situation really well, what you did, because like I can't imagine it, but it's like you dealing with that. It's like you're playing in a good space, right? And you're in a good space then. But in times where we don't deal with it well, could be whatever, somebody cuts up on the road or whatever, it's like that shows you where you're at. It shows you where you're stressed out. So if you're driving to a pool comp and somebody's pissing you off in front of you, when you're driving there, it's like, it tells the story. That's where you're at. But sometimes, and it's quite subtle, but generally when we're doing really well and we're dealing with something well, it's never really at the time that we realise that. It's afterwards, like it has been for you. And it's like, actually, that was a really difficult situation there, and I dealt with it fine.
Yeah.
But at the time, you're not really kind of seeing how well you're doing. So it's all about like I'm forever saying to players like 1-to-1, it's like, if we want to see where you're at, like our opinion on where we're at is largely irrelevant. Put yourself in a stress situation, and then you'll see where you're at. Then you'll see the frustration. And it's quite funny over here in Ireland. I mean, obviously, Scots and Irish get on so well, and it's amazing welcome and stuff over. But it's quite telling for me where I'm at, because I get constant reminders because of this accent. And I've gone to a restaurant or a shop and order something, and it's like, can be quite challenging, Starbucks drive-thrus are just brilliant. I mean, just the accent difference, and then you couple on top of that, the drive-through. It's just absolutely fabulous, and you've but it's great because like I go into it and I'm like, I wonder where I'm at today, because I'm totally sold on I don't know, but I know that my attitude and my reactions to said situation will tell me.
Yeah.
And then when I'm repeating for a fourth time that I want a white mocha, it's like, because they think you're asking for a wheel for a 1971 Escort or something. It's like when I get to the fourth time and I'm repeating myself again and I'm impatient, That shows you where I was at.
Yeah.
You know, but when I come out the drive-through and I've got my coffee, and it's like, and I didn't even act, and I was like, I'd be like, well done, thank you,
Yeah.
thank
No, it just reminded me there a football coach I had years ago, and he's one of those people you'd always go to sort of for advice, and I still do now. I still know him really quite well, um, and he would always say you can always judge people's personalities and judge people when the back's against the wall when you're playing football. And at the first couple of
you. Yeah,
times, I sort of never knew what he meant, but he would always say it. And he was saying, when you're getting beat or when things aren't going your way, that's when you can start seeing people's, personalities. What do people do? Do you come out fighting? You spit your dummy out? You start blaming teammates? Because and it applies to life. And you say that, don't you, when you start getting older? Like everything is all well and good. You see that sort of in my line of work, whether it be management, marketing, and it's notorious with football, with agents and people lingering around them. They're all there for them when the time's good. So easy for people to be there when the times are good, isn't it? To be there for athletes, to be there for people. They've got all the mates, all these cronies gathering around. And yet, it's then you can only really judge it when things go against you, who's actually there. When you have tough times in life, that's when you'll see, or when
yeah.
somebody has tough times, that's when you'll see what they're really like. And that's when you work out who's there for you, or you work out, actually, that's not the person I thought they were. Because it's so easy, isn't it? Like, when things are going all well for them or whatever else, like, how they can behave and they can be positive. But the second something goes against them, you start seeing people's character come out, don't you? And I think it's something that I always take with me now. Like you look at people, and I always look at people when things go wrong and think, yeah, I maybe suspected that was what you were like, or actually I didn't know that was how you were going to behave, because when things go against them, you think, yeah, you didn't actually, care about me that much, or, it's,
Yeah, but our abilities to cope with things change on a day to day basis, hour to
yeah,
hour. Like because it
yeah,
depends on the situation we're in. And it's something. I'll be honest. I'm pretty. I don't think I'm very good at. And my better half, she is extraordinary at it in terms of being at a restaurant and say getting some crap service. I'm a little bit. From my background, want to be extraordinary in everything that I do, and I've a great deal of pride in what I do. And so when you get some waitress staff for that, and they're not doing that, um, you know, I can find it it's a bit challenging for me, but as my better half, and she is just utterly wonderful if she's listening. as it's like she's
that
just
wasn't
very
saying, he
good.
wasn't saying that before we started, man.
Shh.
I mean, I just want to get
But
that in there. Just
but she's just very good at seeing like and understanding like when we do come across somebody difficult and somebody's really struggling, what there'll be something going on there, you know.
yeah,
They've got a parent who's on death row or whatever else, there's some stress going on there, and it's like, why would we choose to add stress to that person, Let's just be incredibly, incredibly kind, and she's really, really good at that, and I'm certainly I'm trying to trying to get up with her skills because it's just for all of us, it's like when you see somebody struggling at work or you deal with a stranger and they're being difficult, it's like just we don't know what's going on there. Let's just all try and be kind.
100%, yeah, 100%,
Let's try and do that. But
yeah.
listen, I'm going to have to go because the checkout time is now, and they're going to start banging on the door because I'm changing hotels tonight. And this staying in the city centre here in Cork, it's no good for me. It's too steep, and I got past last night. There was a big steep hill going up to the hotel here, and there was an old granny, and she had two shopping bags. and she passed me like I was standing still. But being a
She asked you,
former
she asked you if you
athlete,
need a hand up, did she?
it's quite embarrassing. So yeah, I'm moving back to a different hotel, which was flatter. So oh god, nightmare.
Well, enjoy that then, mate.
I will. It's go for it. But even just yesterday, I was just remembering I had a sense of humour failure yesterday because I got a load of medicine before this trip because I'm away for quite a while, and I take two different inhalers. Right, there's a red one, there's a yellow one, and a green one. Right, basically in this bag, and they handed me this bag. She's like, "All your inhalers in there," and a sealed kind of paper bag. So I ran out of one of my inhalers, and obviously it's partly on me because I should have checked at home. But I opened the bag, and they were all one kind of inhaler. So I didn't have one, another kind. And I had a sense of humour failure at that because that was like really difficult. It was just, but on the upside again, we never know if something's a good thing or a bad thing, right? And what was good that came out of it is it's like I met this amazing guy online last night because I had to pay like 50 quid to get a private doctor to
I'm
write me
glad
a
you. I'm glad you
prescription.
said that because I was starting to think something else when you met this fabulous guy online last night.
No. Well, no. Well, yeah, but that's another thing. Yeah, but yeah. So basically, yeah. So I met this doctor, and he was really cool. So I did this online thing. It was 4 minutes. 4 minutes cost me 50 quid. 4-minute call, and he wrote a prescription for me, and so I'm able to solve the situation. And then obviously prescriptions are free in Scotland, and I'm going to have to pay for this in Ireland, so that'll be more money. So it's quite a costly error, And I think like if I was in I did an okay job. And a bit of sense of humour failure, but I was in an okay job with it. But I know in the past, or maybe times where I was less developed, I'd have been so upset that I would have been up all night, like incensed, But I was, well, it's fine. Anyway, I'm kind of good to see you. Well, it wasn't good to see you, but it was good to see everybody else. And
You haven't seen everybody else? Was it like the Sixth Sense? Are you seeing dead people?
Exactly. But I'm just like for our listeners, it's always good to be for them. So no, it's good. But the channel's going great. It's like some of the videos are into 4 figures now with views and stuff. We will see you in a bit. Take care.
See you later, mate.
See you, mate. Take care.